You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Rocky Mountain Rooftop Network, under the fans' first sports network. I am your host, Skyler Timmons, joined here, always, by Evan Lang.
Hello.
Though I guess for accuracy's sake, we can't say always joined because there's times when one of us hasn't been here.
It's true.
It's false advertisement.
It's our secret shame.
Yes. Secret
I
shame
have
world.
missed like 3 episodes in our 128 episode run.
Mm-hmm. And I have also missed a couple.
How dare you, honestly?
Mm-hmm.
This whole podcast is built upon a foundation of lies.
This is true. But hey,
this is a load of barnacles.
This is true. Yeah, we're here to talk about our good old friends, the Colorado Rockies, as we do every week. And luckily, we're in the home stretch, Evan. Only a couple weeks left. It's finally September. And I don't know about you. I think a lot of fans of Colorado, I'm ready for the season to be over with.
You see, I say that almost every year, and then we get to the last game of the season. And I'm like, oh man, thank goodness that season is finally over. Let's move on. And then almost immediately, I'm just like, but I miss baseball now.
It's that thing where we know the Rockies aren't going to do anything most of the winter, and so it's just this slow news drip, where then it's just sitting there seething. You're like, ugh. The season's over, and it's just going to be more of the same for the next year.
And we have to come up with ideas to entertain you people during the off season.
Entertainment's at the bottom of my list. I'm here to inform the people.
But you can be both entertaining and informative.
That's infotainment. But hey, if we had some sponsorships, we could do like infomercials.
This episode is brought to you by...
Quick, no, they're not a paid sponsor.
These cool pins that they sell at Coors Field.
There you go.
Buy them today.
There you go. But
hey,
yeah,
Rockies, if you want to sponsor us, please, by all means. Goodness knows I've spent enough money on your products over the last few years.
Please, gladly make us sell out. Give us purpose.
Which everyone always says is oh, you guys are, whenever anyone accuses us of being paid shills, it's like, I wish.
Yeah, that's never happened to me.
Please. If Dick Monfort backed up the Brinks trucks to my house and was like, well, here you go, Mr. Lang, here's $100,000. Start saying only good things about the team.
And I say, only if I get to play.
We can arrange that.
Hot diggity dog.
As always, the impression seems to lapse into George Lucas. The George Lucas impression is so kind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, Chris Bryan is a funnier character than we've ever had in these movies before.
I mean, injured his back. It's like poetry or rhymes. But anyways.
Every decision I make is so dense. Boy.
But yeah. Moving along here. September is upon us. That's the whole gist of this. September's upon us. Season's almost over. And so with it being recorded here on September 1st, September means call-ups, expanded rosters. Though expanded rosters is kind of a strong word when it's just 2 extra guys come up for the rest of the season. But Hunter Goodman, Evan Justice come back up. Get another bullpen arm, another lefty out in the bullpen, which is nice. Now there's 2 lefties out there. Even though Evan Justice, not the best year for him.
Yeah, the Evan Justice move was actually a surprise to me because he's really kind of struggled. You know, he had his ups and downs in 9 games in his rookie season last year when he was called up. But then this year with AAA Albuquerque and a couple other places, he's dealt with some injuries as well. Just has really had a difficult season, particularly down in Albuquerque, ERA of 9.90 over 20 innings. But the big issue is all the walks, 29 walks to 21 strikeouts. So that's a BB9 of 13.1. And I figured, and a lot of other people I think were on the same boat as me, that with all the walks and with the struggles, he was not a likely candidate to get called up. But he was already on the 40-man roster, and he got called up. And, he faced two batters in today's game against the Orioles, and they weren't great at bats, but he did get a strikeout, and he was in better shape than he should have been in better shape than he was with the first one. So he walked the first batter he faced, but he would have had a 2-strike count if not for a pitch that was just in the top corner of the zone. It was a strike, but it was called a ball. And it would have been a 2-2 count versus a 3-1 count.
Yeah, and that kind of like figures out what this whole month is going to be. No, it's guys like Evan Justice getting a shot that's on the 40-man and seeing like, hey, do you get to hold down this spot, or do we need to give this to somebody else? And so I think that's what this month is going to be like for the Rockies, is focusing on that 40-man roster, maybe trimming some of that fat and figuring it out and putting them in a better place where they're set up going into the off season. Same goes for Hunter Goodman. They have to figure out what they're doing with the kid, because we've seen it back and forth. When he was up here for a while, didn't play much, saw playing time kind of dwindle into nothing, and then he was sent down, and now he's back up. So it's guys like Goodman and Justice and maybe some other guys we'll see this month fighting for those 40-mans, justifying their occupancy of a spot. Because 40-man roster spots are precious. And that's what I think this next couple of weeks may be focused on.
Yeah, and the Rockies overall aren't actually that bad in terms of 40-man space as we roll into next season. You have your guys who are going to come back from the 60, and there's going to be a lot of fat to trim. But for right now, it really is. I think we're going to see a lot of guys like Justin Lawrence, Evan Justice, Hunter Goodman, really the guys who are on the fringe when it comes to what their future with this organization looks like.
Yeah.
We've seen, at the very least, thankfully, the starting 9 is generally pretty set. We've seen Jordan Beck playing in left or right pretty much every game, which has been great. Nolan Jones, my guess for him is they're still being a little cautious with his back because he's not playing as much as I thought he would. He's getting a couple extra rest days here and there. He's been being DH now and then, just not playing in left all the time like he did last season. So that'd be my guess. But overall, like, we kind of know what the majority of the starting lineup is going to look like for next season.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of that building the fringe and focusing on the bullpen, I think is going to be the big focus for them going forward. And because that's something they've talked about, like, we need the bullpen. That's going to be a focus. There's that starting rotation, I feel like they have a vision path for it. And so that maybe won't be touched as much over this month if guys stay healthy and all that stuff. Cal Quantrill going on the 15-day injured list. Recently, Ty Blach started Sunday's game. I don't anticipate him sticking around much longer after a rough performance, but he's definitely a placeholder. But him getting called up came at the expense of Noah Davis getting outrighted off the roster, which I don't agree with that move, because Noah Davis has not been bad coming out of the bullpen, and when he's gotten chances, looked fairly decent. So they've got to figure out a lot. There's a lot of that fringe stuff, like you're saying, they got to figure out.
It's really tough when it comes to guys like Noah Davis who are a fringe, because they're fringe guys, but you also feel like they haven't really been given the opportunity to demonstrate their talents or to succeed or to earn a regular roster spot. Noah Davis has been with the team for a hot minute here, but he rarely saw action, wasn't really given much in terms of opportunities to start, and now he's back down with AAA. And I feel like there's a couple of guys that I think Hunter Goodman is definitely one of those guys where he sat for a lot of time in August before he was finally optioned down to AAA. And the one guy who I understand using sparingly is Anthony Molina, because being a Rule 5 kind of guy has really not done him any favors, because he's not particularly ready to be a regular big league pitcher. And I think he has done pretty admirably with the chances he's been given this year, but I very much doubt that next year he's going to be on the opening day 26. He's probably going to start the season either in Double A or Triple A.
Yeah, because they want to stretch him out into a starter. And then that's a whole nother discussion we could have another time, where it exposes how bad the Rockies are at developing at the big league level itself. That guys still need development when they're in the big leagues. No, they're not finished products. And so Anthony Molina, it's kind of like, well, we're sort of stuck with him, so we're a man short most of the year. We'll throw him out there occasionally. So
yeah, it's tough for a lot of those guys, where I feel like obviously we're not done with the roster shuffle just because the September roster expansion is passed.
Yeah.
Like we stated, Chris Bryant potentially going to go on the 60-day. We might see Antonio Senzatela come back. We don't know if Dakota Hudson is going to be activated after his stint on the injured list is done, or if he is let go. Frankly, I think you let him go. Ty Blach is likely not long for the team. Just really did not do well in his outing today. But for the Rockies, it's frustrating because you do see some guys develop when they're given regular playing time. Look at Jordan Beck, look at Drew Romo, look at Nolan Jones last year, look at Bretton Doyle. Like, you can succeed in developing guys by giving them regular playing time. But then, especially for some pitchers, they shoot themselves in the foot by not really following through with it for some guys.
Yeah. Well, I think of like, why couldn't we just bring Tanner Gordon back up? When did he pitch last, though? Is the scheduling stuff. But no, could we bring Tanner Gordon back up since Quantrill had been put on the IL? Or Ty Blach had to pitch today, but then the next time around, Tanner Gordon gets that start. So it's going to be a lot of that shuffling here. But I think it goes back to what we were talking about of figuring out the 40-man and who fits into it and who can really fit into their whole spiel going forward is going to be a really important thing.
Yeah, and just it's funny because we've joked so many times about, Ty Blach is inevitable, and here he is to make the start for Cal Quantrill with that triceps inflammation. But it's tough because Ty Blach tantalizes you by being legitimately really good down in Albuquerque. He's having a great season down there. But then you call him up and the mirage fades and you're left with what he actually is, which is just, and I love Ty Blach as a person, but right now he is just not a very good big league pitcher.
Yeah, no, he'll eat some innings maybe for you if he's effective enough, but usually he's given up 3 to 4 runs anyway. And so does it really matter if he's taken 5-6 innings on a good day, but he's still giving up 4 runs and your offense is kind of bad?
Yeah. Well, and his whole thing is that he's on his best, he's very quick, he's very efficient, he works quickly and doesn't need a ton of pitches. But that's clearly not coming into effect when he's throwing like 30 pitches in an inning.
Yeah. Ugh. Fun stuff. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do with just shuffling guys around for the rest of this month and who we might see. And one guy that they got to before September was, I'm not going to say surprising, because this feels like this was the plan all along because of how quickly he has moved through the system since getting drafted last year out of the University of Tennessee. Seth Halvorsen getting called up into the Rockies bullpen, has made 2 appearances. He's gotten his 4 outs, including a 1-pitch debut on Friday. But Saturday, we really got to see a full inning of Seth Halvorsen. And Evan, boy howdy, some good stuff.
Yeah, I've been a Halvorsen believer from the start, and his rise through the Rockies farm system really has been meteoric, where he was drafted last year and he's now up in the show and showing why he is such a talented pitcher. he got that one quick out. You didn't really get to see a lot of his stuff, but then in his debut, but then he comes around and made just really excellent use of his secondary pitches, particularly a changeup, which is not generally considered his best secondary pitch, but it was really good. He had it working perfectly. And then you combine that by casually throwing 101, 102 with his four-seam fastball. And it's really nice to see, and we've seen it with other guys like Victor Vodnik and stuff, but it's really nice to see the Rockies dedicating more time to guys who are going to throw high velocity, because that's been a problem with the Rockies over the last couple of seasons, is not a lot of high velocity pitchers, especially out of the bullpen. And Halvorsen, I think, really fits that mold to a T. He's a big, strong guy with a easily repeatable delivery. He locates his pitches pretty well and just straight cheese with that high heat.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's fun to see. And, you can get away with it for now where he can, blaze that fastball. That's going to carry him a lot, as he can spot that. And then it perfectly sets up when you can throw in that 90-mile-an-hour changeup and get a guy out on his front foot, to speed up the bat and everything. So you like what you see, and hopefully he can just continue to grow and continue to develop where, man, the back end of a Rockies game becomes a lot more scarier for other teams when you can throw in a combination of a Luis Peralta in there, who's been pretty good. We won't dive into him too much. Looking good. Angel Chivilli, looking good. Victor Vodnik, when he was pitching, since he's still injured, but he's looked good. And then you add in Seth Halvorsen, and then potentially other guys like a Jaden Hill or whoever else, some power arms. There's some hope for that Rockies bullpen in a good way. Some firepower, baby.
It's nice to feel like the bullpen actually has a future. Because over the last couple of seasons, there really haven't been a lot of high caliber bullpen prospects in this organization. And now you just ran down the whole list of all these guys who are really, really exciting to watch. And, if they're all getting towards the majors sort of at the same time, we've got a pretty nice looking homegrown bullpen. And you'll probably still want to bolster it with a free agent or two. And it depends on what kind of moves they make with that. But having all these young guys be ready to go with a variety of different pitches and velocities and a lot of nice variation makes me feel a lot more confident in the bullpen moving forward than I have been in it this year. Yeah.
And the key with a lot of these guys is throwing strikes. So that'll be the big thing for all of them, because velocity can only take you so far. Eventually you got to pitch. And I think all these guys, we've seen them, they can do that part too, which is awesome to see.
The one thing that I agree with often with stalwart skipper, Mr. Buddy Blach, is that there is a difference between pitching and throwing.
Mm-hmm.
Your 100-mile-per-hour fastball is awesome, but if you can't hit the strike zone with it, it's not a particularly useful tool. You're just throwing gas. You're not pitching with gas.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of throwing, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about a certain rookie catcher whose throwing motion has taken the world by storm for some weird reason. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Affected by Altitude. Welcome back here to Affected by Altitude. Altitude. Skyler Timmons. That's our rich podcast. Skyler Timmons, Evan Lang here, and alluded to it. Certain throwing motion with a certain catcher. Friend of the show, Drew Romo, called up. How long has it been now? Is it like a week and a half? I don't even know how long he's been in the big leagues. It's like 10 games.
He has played 8 games in the month of August, and then played another one today, so 9?
Yeah, about a week's worth of games and stuff. Up for a little bit. And so far, liking what I see from Drew Romo. When we talk to him, kid's got a good head on his shoulders. Cool, calm, and collected. I think it was watching him the other night. It's like nothing really phases him. No, he's kind of loosey-goosey, straight and narrow. Keeps it cool. And I think that's what I've noticed here. And we've seen him get really comfortable at the plate, just throwing out some good at-bats. And we had several consecutive games with an RBI, putting up hits. So he's slowly getting comfortable at the plate. There's still strikeouts. That's just who he is. Part of strikeouts will pop up. He's an aggressive hitter. Not many walks. But I like him what I'm seeing from Drew Romo at the plate so far.
Yeah, Romo put together a 5-game hit streak, and he had a 4-game RBI streak, which was really nice to see. Unfortunately, ended on Sunday against the Orioles there. But he had just a really nice stretch. And overall, he's played 9 games now, and he's got a hit in 6 of them, which, is totally fine, I think, to start. He's yet to get that first home run, but he's got 6 RBI, 7 hits. He's really looked pretty solid. And right now you've got to do the same thing that you did with all of your other rookies, is just keep throwing him out there and continuing to let him play. And it's a little bit different for catchers because, you rarely have the same catcher playing every single game. And we've seen a pretty solid split, like 50-50-ish between him and Jacob Stallings since he got called up. That's generally how it tends to go with catchers. It's a very physically demanding position. I would really like to see him maybe thrown in at DH a couple times in September, just so he can continue to rack up at bats and develop as a hitter. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the approach the Rockies are taking, where they've just slotted him in as in the catching rotation. He's getting regular playing time, and I think the more comfortable he gets, the more we're going to see that, or the more we're going to like. His defense has been pretty solid. His framing has been pretty solid, and his hitting has been pretty solid. And I think right now, if he continues the way he is for the rest of the season, pretty much no doubt that he's the starting catcher next season.
Yeah, there was he got a caught stealing on Saturday where he caught it. It was a strike him out, throw him out. I think Jackson Holliday was hitting, swing and a miss, and it was a blink and you miss it. He moved that transition from his glove to his hand to fire down to third. It was a good looking throw. It was nice and quick and nailed the runner. And so he's thrown to bases. Everything looks good. The thing that people have latched onto is his motion throwing the ball back to the pitcher, where it's kind of like a shot put throw back to the pitcher, kind of a flip floater back. And Patrick Saunders talked about this. We're talking to people in the press box, knowledgeable baseball people, that it's going to be a real concern going forward. Evan, is his throwing back to the pitcher something you're worried about long term?
Not really. I think it's something that you'll eventually try and coach out of him. But right now, teams are maybe going to exploit it a little bit. The slow, deliberate motion back to the pitcher. It's like he's very focused on making sure he's not throwing that thing into center field. But I also think that he's a rookie with a lot of pressure on his shoulders right now. And that can just be something you continue to work on. Because, you're going to get a delayed steal every now and then with that sort of motion back to the plate. But his actual throws from the plate and from defensively, not really a problem.
Yeah. And it goes back to, I guess he had something akin to the yips in the minor leagues is where it kind of started, just that throwing back to the pitcher. And I've noticed over this weekend where when he receives the pitch, he'll stand up and then throw it back. And so maybe just to he's thinking about it. We don't need to pile on the kid about it. When he's doing all these other things right, he looks excellent behind the dish, throwing guys out, runners out, getting a feel for it at the big league level. Still kinks, but like we said, he's a rookie, and there's still room for growth. The development doesn't stop once he gets to the big leagues. And there'll be things the Rockies continue to work on with him so he can improve. He's 22, 23 years old. So I'm not worried about it either. It's just one of those weird little quirk that they'll definitely work on, but I don't think we need to worry about it.
He literally just turned 23
a couple weeks ago.
Like a couple days ago, I think.
Yeah, like
was
last
his
week.
Birthday. And think about, he's got plenty of people in this organization around him to help him get a grasp on the situation he's in. You've got Dustin Garneau, the organizational catching coordinator. He's got Jacob Stallings, an excellent defensive catcher. And Arizona Complex League, you've got Tony Wolters, a very good defensive catcher who he's got all of these resources, and it's not something, if it's still going on a couple of years from now, yeah, then I'm gonna be worried that we haven't coached it out of him. But honestly, I'd view that more as of an organizational failing, a coaching failing, versus a failing of the player. And like you said, there's no need to pile onto the kid when he's doing so much right. As in a high pressure rookie situation, rookie catchers have a lot on their shoulders, because it's not just hitting in defense, it's learning to call a game and pitch framing and working with your pitchers and scouting reports and all of this other stuff. It's a demanding position. And I think Drew Romo's got so much to be proud of right now that this is not something that I'm going to worry about in the short term.
Yeah, it's a small thing. But we just want to check up on Drew Romo, friend of the show. We're happy for him. He's doing good stuff. Happy to continue to see his progress. But transitioning here to another rookie who doesn't even play for the Rockies, but deep connections, as the Baltimore Orioles took 2 of 3 from the Rockies here this weekend. 2 of 3. Win the series at Coors Field, and all eyes were on one Jackson Holliday, son of Matt Holliday, who was taken first overall back in 2022. Yes, 2022. That's when he was drafted.
2020.
But a fun weekend. Highly anticipated, coming to Coors Field. He had a good series, had a hit in every game. And Matt Holliday was here as well throughout the first pitch on Saturday, and all fun festivities. But it was, I think, a cool thing for a lot of Rockies fans to, one, see the Holidays here, and then just that full circle moment of Jackson being able to come and actually hit and play in a real game on a field that he just messed around on when he was a little kid and grew up around.
Yeah, it's funny. They were showing some of the all access stuff during the game, and Jackson said something. Matt was talking about how, he grew up playing catch on this field, and to see him playing in a real game on it is so special. And Jackson pipes in and goes, this was always the plan, that he always intended to eventually play a big league game at Coors Field. It's really, really special. And it's been so cool to see the bond that he and his dad have. If you remember, Skyler, Holliday was actually asked to be the bench coach for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he accepted the position, and then eventually decided to turn it down afterwards. And it was so that he could focus on what he's doing now, which is sort of like following Jackson and eventually Ethan around and being able to watch them play and support them, which I think is really, really cool. And I think it speaks a ton to the character of Matt Holliday, a guy who, in the grand scheme of things, didn't play that particularly long here in Colorado, 2005 to 2008, and then 2018. But fans still really, really love. And for me, it was the fact that he also threw out the first pitch in his number 5 vest.
Yeah.
That made me very happy.
Yeah. And I think that was the fun thing is, we think of Holliday was here for 5 years or so. No. Yeah. He was here for 5 years. And so him being able to come back and just be celebrated and was here in 2018 again. During that playoff run, it reminds us a lot of, Colorado fans, we still love Matt Holliday. Even though he went on and did all those great things with the Cardinals, he's probably more thought of as a Cardinal by the larger baseball world. But dude was legit in Colorado. And so it's cool to see that, he's not that household baseball name, so to speak. He's not like a Vlad Guerrero Jr. or Fernando Tatis Jr. or some of the other children that we're seeing around the league. But you get to see that legacy and Matt Holliday was legit. He deserved more recognition on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yeah, the fact that he fell off after just 1 year, I think is pretty shameful for the Hall of Fame voters. And I do think a lot of it is because there will just continue to be a sort of Rocky stigma around their players. He played 6 seasons in Colorado and 8 seasons in St. Louis, and was really good in St. Louis too. Multiple all-star appearances, multiple Silver Sluggers. had MVP votes in several of his seasons in St. Louis, in addition to how good he was here in Colorado. But, unfortunately, there's always going to be that stigma, I think. But it's also that Holliday also spent a lot of his career sort of in the shadow of other Hall of Famers. Here in Colorado, he was playing with Todd Helton, who's now a Hall of Famer, and in St. Louis, Albert Pujols, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, and all these other guys. So Matt Holliday's never been the loud, boisterous, standout kind of guy, but an incredible player. A shame that he finished his career with a .299 batting average. He was so close.
If he hadn't come back to the Rockies, he would have hit over 300 for his career. But, oh well. But yeah, it's cool to see him and see Jackson struggled in his first stint earlier this year. Since his call-up, he's been much better. It continuing to grow, and it's cool to see that. And then what's cool, you have Jackson we got to see here this weekend. Even closer to home, there is a legit possibility that the Rockies could end up having the opportunity to draft Ethan Holliday, who even some scouts and people are saying is even better than Jackson is. Could be even better as a player than Jackson. And possibly could be coming the Rockies' way if they get that number 1 pick next year, which is pretty exciting.
It's tough because I don't know if the Rockies will end up with the first overall pick. It's kind of unlikely in the grand scheme of things, which is a little bit of a bummer. But
we have the best odds, though.
But that's the problem, is it's still a lottery system.
Yeah.
So they could still end up without getting it. But even then, there's still a chance. If the Rockies again draft in the top 3 like they did this season, I think there's definitely a chance. And I would love to get Ethan Holliday. Right now he's they have him playing shortstop, but like Jackson, they moved Jackson over to second base. He also plays a little third base. Matt Holliday was originally a third baseman, I believe, before being moved to the outfield. So you never really take the specific position on really young guys, especially guys who are coming out of high school, unless they're a catcher or something like that. You're Drew Romo's. But man, the idea of the Rockies landing Ethan Holliday is so tantalizing, especially because the Rockies are one of those teams where, they've had plenty of players whose kids have ended up in the big leagues, but none of them have ended up with the Rockies.
Yeah. It's been like Jim Tracy's son was in the system and got him. Dan O'Dowd, I think, had a kid, maybe, or no, somebody else's kid got into the system that they selected and stuff. But yeah, but it's interesting to see what will happen. And hey, it's us and the Marlins that have the top 2 odds there, since the White Sox, the great bit of irony, they're not eligible for the number 1 pick.
That's, I think, what makes this season so painful for the White Sox, is that they are historically awful, and there's no consolation prize waiting at the end of the season for them.
That's what they get for being a big market team that's been terrible.
They really have been. We do have Glenn Allen Hill Jr., though. He's been pretty fun to watch down in Spokane this year. Sort of came out of nowhere for him. Going by GJ now, GJ Hill. And I don't know. I'm just excited for the idea of Ethan Holliday. I think, the Rockies are going to have a good draft pick regardless, and they're going to pick a good player regardless. But man, I want Ethan Holliday on this team. Yeah, I want a Holliday back with the Rockies. And you know what? If he makes it to if we get him and he gets up to the big leagues, that's when you dust off number 5 again. Yeah.
If he wants it. That's unless they retire it before then, which is also purely acceptable.
Yeah, that's true.
Do right by Cargo. Anyways, fun stuff, and we'll see. All eyes will be on the Rockies draft next year, and fingers crossed, number 1 pick, because that'd be cool to have those brothers go 1 of 1, and first time in baseball history. That'd be really cool.
That would be really cool.
But moving along here, now that it's September, as we do every month, at the start of the new month, we'll do the Players of the Month. here for August because we got a little something special for this for the last segment coming up later. But August Players of the Month, Evan, and overall, not the best month for the Rockies, but overall, but still a lot of interesting, I guess, some good performances in the month of August from a couple of guys.
Let's hear it for Chasen Shreve, everybody, our pitcher of the month.
Woo, Shrevey.
I'm kidding. I hope that is apparent.
He had a good outing at least.
Yeah, he had a great one outing before we kicked him to the curb almost immediately.
And
this team is strange. But I don't know. Do we want to start with pitchers or hitters?
Let's go with hitters.
I feel like this one's fairly obvious. I feel like we're going to both agree on this one. Because, in my opinion, the best Rockies hitter, and statistically the best Rockies hitter in the month of August was one Mr. Brendan Rodgers with an OPS of 937 to lead the team. His on-base percentage was one of the higher ones on the team. Ironically, not the highest. That honor belongs to Chris Bryant, of all people. But he also led the Rodgers led the team. Excuse me. Rodgers led the team in both home runs and RBI while hitting 330, 364, 573 in August. And to me, there's no one else there were plenty of good performances in August, but Brendan Rodgers was on a whole different level. And that's why I wish, here in the second half, here in the late days of the season, he's playing really, really well. And that's why I wish he wasn't such a slow starter, because if Rodgers could play the way he plays in the second half, the way he played in August here, then it would be a much tougher decision, I think, for the future of second base moving forward.
Yeah, first half, he had a 262 average, 307 on base, 383 slugging, a 689 OPS with 6 home runs, 29 RBIs. In the second half, in 38 games, compared to the 79 in the first half, in 38 games, hitting 311, 352, 514, and 866 OPS with 7 home runs, 21 RBIs. 37 strikeouts, 7 walks. If he could do this for a whole season, it'd be a lot easier to just figure out what to do with him. But I'm still in the camp of, yes, build that trade value, Mr. Rodgers. Because, yeah, I agree. Player of the month. Easy decision for the month of August. But you just think, okay, he's going to be entering his final year of team control. He's a good trade candidate this offseason to see what you can get. Probably not going to get something awesome, but you can get something decent still. And point to those stats of like, hey, he's building up. He's got some good stuff and great defense, all that. But yeah, you can't afford for a guy to be a slow starter in the sense that he's slow for 3 months.
Yeah. At that point, he's not really a slow starter. He's a strong finisher.
Mm-hmm. He is the opposite of Ryan McMahon, who's a good first half, bad second half.
Oof.
Poor guy. Honorable mention to Jake Cave, everybody's favorite player. Jake Cave just keeps doing his thing. And people may hate it, but I'm okay with him coming back.
Again, I had the caveat that he's got to actually be in the role that he was brought in to be, which is your good clubhouse guy and your backup outfielder.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a huge shout out to Brenton Doyle, who's just continued to be one of the best hitters in baseball since July. Brenton Doyle had another really good month. He had 297, 308, 578, another 4 home runs, another 14 RBI. Only drew 12 RBI.
Yeah,
Drew
you're looking at Jake Cave's numbers.
I sure am. Doyle hit 276, 333, 480. Did hit 4 home runs, 12 RBI, drew 9 walks, 30 strikeouts. So he's still striking out at a decent clip, but he's making such good contact and he's getting on base that's not really a problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't, in my opinion. Where, last year, Brenton Doyle, the big issue was strikeouts. This year, doesn't matter.
Managed much better.
Yeah, he's basically a completely different player than he was last year when it comes to his offense, and I am just absolutely here for it.
Yeah. Let's see here. And also, huge shout out to Michael Toglia, 21 walks in the month of August against 34 strikeouts. Yeah, the 34 strikeouts were second most on the team, but his 21 was double that of the next guy, Ryan McMahon.
And he was one of the best walk rate guys in the entire league in August. I believe he had a better walk rate than Juan Soto in August. Yeah. And that's kind of a big deal because Juan Soto's major draw is that he is incredible at drawing walks. And, you know, gosh, Skyler, could you imagine regular playing time helps you improve?
Also, working his stint down in AAA actually really did help. It's one of those instances of, yes, he needed to go down to work on stuff.
But now that he's back and he's playing every day,
yeah,
you can actually put those lessons to use.
Yes, because he's not just home run or bust anymore. He's throwing out some doubles. He's got a triple. He's got some home runs, and will draw a walk. Good stuff for Michael Toglia.
And an incredible defender.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. So, yeah, I guess unanimous. Brendan Rodgers. He's the easy one to take home the hitter of the month, which makes our lives easier.
Yeah, pitcher of the month, I feel like, is going to be a little bit more interesting to look at. So, Skyler, how about you go first? And it's not Chasen Shreve. It's not Shreve Palpatine.
It should be Shreve Palpatine. Somehow he returned. Isn't that right, Poe Dameron? I should have set myself up better for that joke. I don't know where my soundbite is. Somehow Palpatine returned. Oh, thank you, Poe.
I'll give you a C for effort.
My pitcher of the month, Angel Chivi, coming out of the bullpen. Outside of the guys that had less than 5 outings, had 14 games that he pitched in, 14 and 2/3 innings. He finished 4 games. He's entered into them maybe that 9th inning role at times. A 307 average was the best outside of those guys with just a couple of short little stints. He gave up 5 earned runs, 14 hits, so he's getting hit a little bit, but nothing really to worry about. And then 13 strikeouts to 3 walks. Did get hit with 3 home runs, but really not that much of a worry at times. Yeah, just overall, like, good month for Angel Chivi coming out of the bullpen.
And I agree with you. We're going to be unanimous on this one as well. Angel Chivi really coming into his own, and it's been really interesting to watch because he got called straight up from AA, pitched just a tiny little bit. He was eventually reassigned to AAA Albuquerque. Didn't really pitch all that much up here, and then necessity had him come up again, and we've really seen him develop with some great pitching. And he's had some tough outings here and there, but overall a really, really strong month of August. For me, it's the lack of walks, because walks, we talked about this earlier in the show, walks have been such an issue for this team, and he's kept those to a minimum. And yeah, he gave up 3 home runs, but that's as many walks as he gave up in the entire month as well, while still turning in that 307 earned run average. So really, really happy with how he has progressed. And, you know, he's one of those guys where I can see him having a future with this bullpen and being really exciting to watch.
Yeah, and the rest of the pitching staff and everything, like, you could see good instances in there. You know, some of those numbers are a little maybe skewed, like Bradley Blalock looked pretty decent until his last start of August, and then it ballooned his numbers. But Angel Chivi, I think, by far and away in a bullpen that has been awful this year. You know, and I don't blame the Miami loss on him. I do not blame that on him at all. that's more to Tyler Kinley, who also had a good month until that outing.
Yeah, honestly, my honorable mention is, despite everything, Tyler Kinley, because he really has, his first half was brutal. Like, he was not good. And I bet so much of it is still having to do with still recovering from that major surgery. But in August, he had two pretty bumpy outings, one including that Miami game. But, Kinley, 13 appearances, 12 and 2/3 innings, 355 earned run average, 16 strikeouts, 3 walks. That's pretty good. Like, that's really a solid set of appearances for your veteran reliever who's really struggled for most of the year. And I'm pretty happy to see him bouncing back. I like TK a lot. He's a good guy, and when he's on, he is a very good pitcher, but he's just struggled so much to refine his form. And so, honorable mention. But Javi really is the guy. Plenty of other guys had pretty solid August. Again, Bradley Blalock, really, really liked what I've seen from him outside of that one really tough outing. We had the debut of Luis Peralta, who has been excellent so far, and granted, very limited sample size, but love to see it. Seth Halvorsen, also just really excellent in a very small sample size. And another honorable shout out can go to Jeff Criswell, who made his debut in August and has been pretty solid. So the end of August, the month of August really ended up being about rookie debuts, solid performances from said rookies, and then TK bouncing back a little bit.
Yeah. And there were some good consistency, I think was the name of the game for some of those guys too. Because Austin Gomber had some good outings, but also some bad ones. Kyle Freeland, some good outings, some bad ones. Cal Quantrill, mostly kind of rough because he's been dealing with injury stuff. That ultimately has landed him on the injured list. So, but yeah, GVE, player of the month, pitcher of the month. Good stuff. That's an easy one.
Angel Chivigi.
Yeah. Chivigi.
Luigi.
Yeah. Everybody but Blach has learned how to say it. So that happens. That's baseball. But
whatever happens, that's baseball.
Yeah, so those August players of the month. Appreciate you sticking through. And this episode may run a little long at this time because we got a special thing for our third segment. Evan, it is a special interview coming here with Ryan Rolison of the Albuquerque Isotopes. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll set you up for it and get you into that interview. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back for our final segment. We're back here on Affected by Altitude. Skyler and Evan here. We're going to transition you over into a conversation we had with left-handed pitcher Ryan Rolison down in Albuquerque, coming out of the bullpen. It's a really fun conversation. He's talking about that journey back from injuries and stuff. It was nice to talk to him. Good stuff. So we'll transition over to that. Enjoy it, and then we'll wrap things up here after that. Don't go anywhere.
Deedly-doo, deedly-doo, deedly-doo.
Hello, welcome back here to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast here with Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Skyler Timmons and Evan Lang here, and we are joined here by a very special guest down in Albuquerque. It is the 2018 Rockies first-round pick out of Ole Miss, and he's left-hander coming out, working on the mound. It's Ryan Rolison. Ryan, appreciate you hopping on with us. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to have you, and you're a guy that we're kind of excited to watch because I think you're one of the more interesting prospects. One, just on the unfortunate bad luck you've had just with the horrible injuries and everything. But I think the first thing I wanted to say is just how awesome it is that to see you back on the mound and working as much as you have this season. I think it's been really awesome, I think, for myself and Evan. So we just want, how are you feeling? How's this season been going for you so far?
It's been going good. Like you said, I'm just thankful to be back in games. I look back from a year ago when I, had my second shoulder surgery and kind of sitting there and, the uncertainty of having 2 shoulder surgeries of, what the future looks like. And, sitting there in a sling and not knowing if I'd ever be able to throw again. But I give a lot of credit to, I went down to Cressy to Eric Schoenberg, the physical therapist there, to start me off on the right track, and then come into spring training, and the Rockies medical staff did a great job with me. One guy I worked with in particular is Robert Mahoney, the PT down in Arizona. We had a great relationship, talked through the whole thing to get me ahead of the schedule to be back in games this year. And, I'm really happy where I'm at, being able to be back in, competitive baseball. And I think that was the main goal this year. Let's be back in games and be around the game again. And, I'm very pleased with, the work that I put in and where I'm at, sitting at, 35, a little over 30 innings, on pace to get close to 50 innings this year. And I think that's a huge success coming off of 2 shoulder surgeries. So I'm happy where I'm at. And, I got to give a lot of thanks to the team around me that, has helped me get to this point.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, Ryan, because, we're on pace to pitch about 50 some innings, maybe a little more this season. But some of the most appearances you've had, off of the mound since back in 2019 when you were with Asheville and Lancaster. For this year coming back, and there's been some changes we'll ask you about a little bit later. Did it feel a little bit like sort of starting over to you? Yes,
it did. Being out of the game for 2 years it's challenging, mentally, not only physically, but, there's a lot of mental battles that come with that, being out of the game. And, everybody, being a competitor at this point in the game, wanting to be out there and wanting to compete, and obviously being sidelined for 2 years with injuries, it's frustrating. And, all you want to do is be out there and playing. And so, yeah, it's very different coming back and trying to get back in the swing of things, the locker room and being back in game atmosphere. And, it's a huge change from, being on the couch for 2 years and then trying to get, rush back. And, now I think I'm at a point where, the game's kind of slowed down for me, and I feel, back to normal of, being back in the game atmosphere and doing what I love, and that's competing.
Yeah. And I we can always talk about, the process of rehab and all that stuff. But I think the thing I wanted to ask you about is that process of just, maintaining kind of that work ethic and that, optimism that keeps driving you forward when you are, you're out of the game for as long as you were, and, dealing with these freak injuries and everything. How did you maintain kind of optimism and ability to keep working forward to getting back to where you are now?
Yeah. I think it shook me to my core, honestly, just my career going so well, being, drafted in 2018 and, kind of flying through the minor leagues and being up here in Albuquerque in 2021. And, thinking I'm knocking on the door, throwing the ball well here as a starter in 2021. Obviously had a freak injury with the appendectomy and then, in batting practice, taking a line drive off the hand and being set back for a couple months and then finishing the year here and, being a big prospect and just being out of the game with freak injuries and, 2 shoulder surgeries is, you kind of feel forgotten about. And it's hard to keep your confidence that way, when you feel like everybody is, forgotten about you. And, but I think that, it helped me learn a lot about myself and really shook me to my core of like, you're going to believe in yourself. I know what I'm capable of when I'm healthy. I put in all the work to be back where I am now. And I think that the results are showing that I'm, starting to get back to where I was before I got injured.
Yeah. Because we can look back at that college career you had over at Ole Miss and a premier, a big league curveball, is what they're saying and everything. And so, yeah, I'm hearing about like that of feeling forgotten about, and I know a lot of baseball fans, especially Rockies fans, like we never forgot about Ryan Rolison because you were going to be that next big thing. Like you're saying, knocking on the door there in 2021, and then just the freak injuries, which out of our control, but it's cool you're able to be back now and be working on that.
Yeah, the big thing for me that has really been, impressive to me, Ryan, like you said, is just trying to maintain that focus and you've worked so hard to get back to where you're at. And, this season you're having a pretty nice season with Albuquerque, but it's in a little bit of a different role. You've been coming largely out of the bullpen this year, out of being, a starter or starting for the majority of your career. Do you see yourself as staying in the bullpen, or is this part of working back to getting on the mound as a starter?
I think that the conversation that we had, when we made the decision to use me out of the bullpen this year, obviously, not logging any innings the past 2 years, the workload for me to be a starter this year was, kind of a stretch for me to, be able to throw 100 pitches every time out. And I think it was, more safety to keep me healthy and get me back in game experience. And also I think another great thing was, coming out of the bullpen, I'm able to touch the mound a couple times a week instead of just one time. And so that has helped me, get my feel back for, all my pitches, and just being back in game atmosphere, I think is the best thing for somebody to get back in the game. I've never come out of the pen before, and this is something new for me. And it is very different. It's a very different role. I've never had the experience of coming out of the pen. And so the first couple, 3-4 weeks were a little strange of, trying to judge, when I'm going to go in the game, how to get loose, how to stay loose, stuff like that. And, we have a great group of guys, of veteran guys that have, been in the bullpen for a long time. And so me to be able to come here and be able to pick their brains and, at the beginning to, different things to help me stay loose and be ready when my name is called. Obviously we start off the year here in AAA really good. And then, went through a little stretch where I struggled a little bit, and, now I'm starting to throw the ball well again. And so just trying to take one day at a time and do my job. And that's, it's one strike at a time.
Yeah. You can see those instances of, where you get some of that little stretched out while you're rehabbing down in the ACL, or down in Spokane, a couple of 3-inning outings and things like that, are able to go multiple innings. Have you found yourself just pitching, I guess, your approach different when you're on the mound in the game, in the reliever mentality, as opposed to when you were starting? Like, you're going to use certain pitch more often because you're relieving as opposed to starting the game?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. And I think that, I tried to do a little bit too much on that stretch where I struggled a little bit of, trying to overthrow and trying to be somebody I'm not. And I think what, makes me successful is I have 4 pitches that I'm able to throw, in any count. And, I don't have an overpowering fastball. I'm not going to be able to blow a fastball past someone and then just have 2 pitches. And I think that makes me successful is to be able to throw those 4 pitches. And so, like, I try to keep that same mentality when I'm on the mound. It's just, I try to keep the starter mentality of, coming in the game. Obviously, when I come in and if there's guys on, I'm probably going to, what I feel best that day. And that's obviously probably my curveball, my fastball. So there are situations where, I kind of pitch a little bit different than I would as a starter. But once I get a fresh inning, it's kind of back to the starter mentality of, throwing all my pitches.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if you have worked at all with, or maybe during the spring, worked at all with Kyle Freeland, because sort of similar there. Not necessarily always going to overpower you with the fastball, but it's all about diving deep into that full arsenal as a left-handed pitcher off the mound with the multiple breaking pitches.
Yeah, that's me and Kyle have been talking a lot throughout the years. Being in big league camp from 2019 on, and then in 2023, him being my catch partner, being able to, kind of talk every single day about different pitches and, being able to his bullpens, he attacks his bullpens, and you can see it in game when he's, throwing the kitchen sink in any count. And so that's something that, I model myself after and try to be like. So it was great to be able to pick such a great left-hand pitcher's brain about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know you're good buddies with Ryan Feltner, who's been up with the big league team this year and had some ups and downs, but he's been in a good stretch recently and a lot of good stretches this season. How's that relationship been helping you, whether it's been throughout your rehabbing process or just becoming a better pitcher?
Yeah, he's one of my best friends, being drafted the same year and then coming through the minor leagues together. And obviously he's been in big leagues, and props to him, but he's been a huge help with me, not only physically, but mentally as well, to keep me going and keep me positive about, everything. And so I can't thank him enough for, what he's done for me on the mental side. And then obviously, him being a starting pitcher in the big leagues is, something that I would like to do. And him having that big league experience and being able to share some of the knowledge with me has helped me a ton.
Do you own a Ryan Feltner original art piece? Is that hanging up anywhere?
Yeah. This offseason, he just bought a place in Scottsdale, and so he brought over a piece for me to hang in my living room. So he got me a he got me a what is his name on Instagram? That was painted. He got me one of those special edition for me, and then he also got me one of his jerseys that I put in my man cave. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
There you go.
Yeah, it's good to have, you know, Feltner especially. Felty's one of those guys who I think if there's anybody whose brain you want to pick about trying to stay positive, he's definitely one of the guys at the top of my list with everything that he's gone through, you know, in sort of similar situations, just absolute freak injuries that are totally out of your control. But down in Albuquerque right now, are there any specific guys that you're leaning on, that you tend to pick their brain the most, or sort of the guy in your corner?
Yeah, obviously another guy that is one of my best friends is Peter Lambert. Obviously he's down here right now, and so he's someone that, you know, I talk to day in, day out about different things. Jeff Hartlieb is another guy in the bullpen that has kind of taken me under his wing about, you know, different things, because he's thrown out of the bullpen for a long time. John Curtis has been great as well, with his big league experience and, you know, his time in the bullpen. So I just think we got a great group of guys that, you know, want to be here to help each other. You know, obviously we're all trying to be successful and get to the big leagues, but, you know, we're trying to help each other out as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's cool. It's because it's where the Rockies are at now, and you're seeing it. Nobody's getting called up from AAA. It's a younger team. They're in that kind of rebuild, almost restructuring of a youth movement. Do you find yourself maybe sometimes getting a little antsy, or is it just really awesome to see like a Michael Tully or other guys you've played with get that call up, and then you're just, you know, rubbing your hands together, waiting for your opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get antsy here, especially, you know, when you're throwing the ball well. But then again, like, no one's right about, you know, what they expect is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I've played that game a lot of times and, you know, been, you know, frustrated or antsy about it. And so really, you know, being here and being around the guys, you know, I'm fortunate to be back, you know, in AAA and doing what I love. And so I'm taking it one day at a time. The only thing I can control is taking it a day at a time. And when my name is called, you know, do my job and fill up the strike zone and whatever is decided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you got another one of your teammates down there who's kind of been in that same boat you have, and Riley Pint, where he's been having really good stretches down there in Albuquerque. And these last couple of years when he's come back, those injuries and other things, has he been a guy that you've kind of worked with a little bit and kind of that shared experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, him being, you know, a first rounder and the expectations of, you know, living up to that, you know, we can kind of both relate to, and being able to bounce, you know, stuff off each other. Obviously he was a starter, and then now he's in the bullpen. And so, like I said, when I say that, you know, all the guys that have been in the bullpen have helped me out, like, I'm talking about all of them. You know, it's a great group of guys, even if, you know, during the game we're talking about something other than baseball or whatever. It's a good group of guys to be around and, you know, have fun. And it's a joy to come to the field every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of my things that I always notice and always want to point out to people is that Albuquerque always seems to have just such a great clubhouse culture, no matter how the team is performing in and of itself, that you look in the dugout during the games or out in the bullpen and see that the guys down there really have each other's backs. And we've heard that from other members of the Topes that we've talked to. So it's just really nice to always hear about, you know, how everybody relies on each other down there.
Yeah, it's you know, nobody knows kind of what we go through on a daily basis unless you're, you know, with the team, and playing 140 something games a year is not easy. And I think that, you know, everybody grows through that, and you get to know each other on a deeper level. And so, you know, the respect that we have for each other to be able to, you know, when guys are grinding through things, and it gets, you know, we're close to September now. And so it's towards the end of the year, and you know, you gain a lot of respect, and you're going through the same grind of the day, and, you know, it gets monotonous sometimes. And so being able to have a deeper relationship with someone just to get your mind off baseball and come to the field and, you know, have fun is very important. And I think we got a great group here to do that.
Yeah. And go ahead, Evan.
Well, I was just going to say, because you can see from, I don't know if you caught any of the Todd Helton festivities that the Rockies were doing over the last couple of weeks, or Matt Holliday being back with the team, and some of the guys who come with him, is the friends that you make in that clubhouse are guys who are going to be with you for 20 plus years. Todd Helton and Brad Hopp, you have Matt Holliday with Garrett Atkins and some of these other guys. So that I always appreciate hearing about the intense camaraderie in both minor league and Major League Baseball. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And something I wanted to ask that I was kind of thinking about is if you could go back, and talk to young Ryan, back before you were drafted in college and whatnot, and knowing all that you know now, what advice would you give to your past self or just younger pitchers in general that may be experiencing things that you've gone through?
I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is control the controllables. There's a lot of, being in a locker room, a lot of different talks and opinions on different things. And I think you can get caught up in, all the roster moves, all the guys that are getting called up when you think that you need to be called up. And, at the end of the day, none of that matters. Worrying about if you're going to get called up, who's getting called up it's out of your control. And so, and when you start thinking about those things, it can affect your performance, whether you're mad, frustrated, whatever, like that can affect your performance. And so I think when you control the controllables and you stick to the routine that you have, and you have deep belief in yourself of knowing what you can be, then the rest will take care of itself. And so it's easier to say than do, but I think that that's the best piece of advice that I can give throughout the minor leagues. Like even in high A, like guys are getting called up to double A, and you always want to be at the next level. And sometimes I think that you can get so caught up in that it affects your performance. And now you're definitely not, you're not performing well. So, but yeah, I would say, control the controllables and stick to your daily routine.
Yeah, and I think that perfectly relates to, especially you as a pitcher and everything. If you just take it one pitch at a time, you throw the ball, you do what you can, and know that there's guys behind you to support you.
Exactly.
But before we let you go here, Ryan, something I want to ask, and this is a typical Evan question, so I'm going to steal it from him.
Oh, wow, harsh.
What's been your favorite place, your favorite stop, or favorite stadium to play in the Rockies system, or just in general that you've played at?
I'd probably have to say Las Vegas. Just for the hotel that we stay at there, it's walking distance to the field, and the brand new park.
The Red Rock.
We stay at the Red Rock there. The brand new stadium that they have there is, in the locker room and everything is, it's very up to scale. It feels, the guys that have been in the big league say it's, very big league. So probably there. Obviously, it's not a very friendly, park to pitch, but it's a great trip every year.
It's a beautiful ballpark out there, and the Red Rock is probably one of my favorite hotels I've ever stayed at in my life. Just such a nice accommodation. Then you look out the window and the stadium's right there.
Yeah. That's an easy question for me, just because, there's not a lot of ballparks like that, and get to stay in the Red Rocks like that. So.
All right. So my question for you, we had Drew Romo on a couple weeks ago, and he was wearing an item of note that I must ask if you also have one, the Elehuris Montero, the Muscle Man posing T-shirt that apparently have been spreading across the clubhouse.
Yeah, we Montero wore it one time into the field. I think during batting practice, he had a red shirt, and it was him on the front, with like big muscles, and everybody started complimenting on him. And then he ended up getting everybody's numbers, like jersey numbers, and he got like 30 of them, and put our numbers on it. So we use it as a BP top now. So
that's awesome.
BP, everybody goes out there and Montero shirts.
There you go. That's awesome. Before we let you go, I have to ask you, any special talents, things that people would maybe be surprised to know about Ryan Rolison?
I like to sing.
Ooh, there you go.
So some guys might say I'm good. Some guys might not think so, but I do enjoy to sing. Very outgoing guy. Like to, if anything's playing, I like to sing along with it.
Right, big karaoke guy.
Yeah.
Any specific band or song or genre that's up your alley?
I like country music mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, you could follow Adam Wainwright's career. No. There you go.
Get John Curtis on the guitar. He's playing guitar a little bit around the clubhouse. So
there you go. A nice duo album.
Performing live at Red Rocks, the Albuquerque Isotopes Band.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a very musical bunch that's spread throughout the Rockies organization that I'm discovering.
It's actually kind of cool because I feel like everyone has the sort of same general perspective of how they view athletes, of like, oh, they're just the athletes guys, but there's a lot of really artistic guys in this Rockies organization. You know, Felty paints, singers, musicians, all sorts of people. It's cool. I like it.
Will you begin a music career like Jose Iglesias and perform after a game?
No, I don't think I'm there yet. I think I'm really doing no practice.
You're not there yet.
That's right. Not there yet.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, we'll go ahead and let you go. We appreciate you taking the time and chatting with us. It's been a real pleasure having you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan.
This has been Affected by Altitude. We've been joined by Ryan Rolison, left-handed pitcher for the Albuquerque Isotopes. I'm Skyler. That's Evan. We'll see you next time here on Affected by Altitude. Back here on Affected by Altitude. Special thanks out to Ryan Rolison again for joining us there. It was fun to talk to him. He's a good dude.
That's been kind of the rundown with all these interviews. It's been so nice to see. There's a lot of good dudes with good heads on their shoulders in this organization. Yeah. And absolute treat to talk to Ryan. We've really been pulling for him with all these injuries to, you know, make his way back to where he's at now, and really hoping at some point, maybe not this year, but, you know, next season, we hope to see him making his big league debut finally. Long deserved.
Yeah. And it would be great if it is with the Rockies. I think that would be thing, so we could, kind of like with Riley Pint, just, if nothing else, get that full circle moment, get closure on it at all. But hopefully he's only 27, Evan. I think that's what we forget about. It's like, no, there's still some good years of baseball left in him.
Yeah,
it's only 27, so
there's tread on those tires.
Yeah, so we're definitely pulling for him, and we appreciate him taking the time to chat with us a little bit. But that'll do it here for this edition of Affected by Altitude. As always, we appreciate you tuning in, following along, putting up with our shenanigans. Got to put the emphasis on that. Shenanigans. But Evan, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Evan_Lang27. I would love to hear from you. You can also catch me on www.purplerow.com, writing usually the Monday Rock Piles, and on Tuesdays doing our weekly Pebble Report, which only a couple weeks left of the Pebbles. The minor league season is rapidly drawing to a close. So look forward to those and additional shenanigans. Skyler, where can the folks find you?
You can find me in the closet that you're listening to. Blah, and I just pop out from behind you. But no, find me over on Twitter at sideline_crowd. Also find me writing Wednesday Rock Piles over at purplerow.com and writing stuff over at fansfirstsports.com, where you can also find the articles that house both the YouTube version and the audio version in them. And when you check out those articles and listen to them, that it also goes directly to help support us and the show, as well as listening to the audio format. So preference, do audio, but hey, we do the visual stuff because, hey, convenience, you like that. Or Evan, here's what you do. You sync up the audio to the video and watch it, but you have the volume off, but you sync it up to your favorite podcasting platform. Best of both worlds.
No, you see what the preference is you just, when the episode goes up on your favorite podcasting platform of choice, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google Music, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, you click that play button, and then you just loop the episode for the entire week until we get to next week.
There you go.
That's sweet, juicy ad revenue. And remember that you can also always find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on multiple social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop.
Yeah, good stuff. And we appreciate you following us along, and be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever But that'll do it here for this week. We're almost down. We're on the home stretch, everybody. Let's keep rolling through this journey together with the Rockies, because Lord knows we don't have anything else.
We have hitched our cart to a cow, a Filipino cow, and we are in it for the home stretch.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll do it here on Affected by Altitude. Until next time, I'm Skyler. That's Evan. Hit him with it, Mr. Bean. It's got to load. Farewell. Farewell.
Farewell.